Welcome to the Eagle Eye Podcast, the #1 show to bring you all things Club America in English. Your hosts for today, Ivan Pineda, Christian Rosendo, and everyone's favorite cowboy, Dylan Jimenez. Let's start the show.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Eagle Eye Podcast. Welcome to our Lady Aguilas section here, as we're going to be talking everything that happened in the Clasico Nacional and that 2-1 victory over Guadalajara. And then, of course, we're going to be breaking down everything you need to know ahead of the game against Pachuca, where our ladies will finally be ending the regular season and looking forward into the Liga. But before I get carried away, let me introduce, as always, today's co-host. It is Brooklyn's very own AJ. AJ, how is New York, my friend?
I'm doing good, thank you. I'm pretty excited to talk about this recap against Chivas Femenil and the upcoming match against Pachuca Femenil.
Definitely, most definitely. And we're not alone today, as you guys can see on your screen. And if anyone reading the title of today's episode will see that we are joined by a very special guest. It is a Liga MX Femenil expert and someone who has been headlining a lot of the Liga MX English community recently from all the great work that she's been doing. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the podcast none other than Miss Amelia Lopez. Amy, how are you?
What's up, Ivan? What's up, AJ? Happy to be on a pod with AJ. I've seen all his great work. Speaking of Liga MX Femenil people, you guys are definitely up there. So excited to be able to talk about this game, everything that's gone on. We might get a slight interruption from one of the children. Don't know which one. They're having my version of pathetic parent dinner right now, so that when they finish, they might just come in here and barge in. So this is live. I haven't done a live in a long time with the Mexican Soccer Show since we switched to audio, but that's what happens sometimes. So just gonna preface it with we might be.
Well, it should be some good fun. I know we had some surprise guests last week when we had Melissa on here, so that was definitely fun. So who knows? We'll see. Maybe we get a good surprise feature from one of your kids today as well, which I'm sure the audience will definitely enjoy that. But okay, we are here to talk America Femenil. We're talking Lady Aguilas. We're going to be breaking down that amazing 2-1 victory over Chivas in the Clásico Nacional. And let's just kind of start off there before we jump anywhere else. AJ, talk to me more about this game. We came into this one very skeptical. We came into this one a little bit hesitant. And let's face it, we didn't have our ladies backing. We didn't really back our ladies to get the victory. Yet they did. They shut us up. And now we're here celebrating those 3 points.
Yeah, no, I'm just really happy for them to just, prove us wrong, shut us out, all the negative stuff that we were talking about last week. So I'm just kind of happy that they went out there and gave it their 110% and got the victory, which I'm pretty happy just to see. I was screaming on the top of my lungs when I saw Dani score 2 goals in 2 minutes. I was just even yelling to my mom, like, Dani, God bless her soul. I'm happy that she's in my team. So just know, it's just really good, and it's a confidence booster for this team because we really need this victory, considering that we haven't beat any team that are going to be in the Liga. So just to see that we got a win against our biggest rivals in this season and to prove that we get bragging rights is just amazing.
Definitely. It was definitely a crazy game, and we'll talk a little bit more about the ups and downs because America did have to hold their own for quite a bit because Chivas did look dangerous. But Amy, talk to me. How did you come away from this game? I know you didn't back the America Femenil, and I saw your prediction on Telemundo Deportes, and you were giving this one to Chivas. What surprised you the most out of this game?
Honestly, I think it was the mental hurdle that Chivas just never seemed to overcome. Obviously, America winning was the biggest surprise, right? But this season has had really surprising Clásicos or top 5 surprise results, right? We thought that Rayadas at their peak of this season was going to be Chivas, and then here comes Chivas and beats them. Atlas against Chivas with that whole Licha revenge tour, and then Atlas comes and beats them. Rayadas versus Tigres this past weekend as well with the Clásico Regio Femenil going and beating Tigres. So it seemed to be in that pattern. You didn't expect it. You were still surprised with it. Obviously, Chivas was without people that were out there. Leader, Chore Mejia, he now has been tested positive for COVID. They were without Licha Cervantes. But I think what surprised me the most in a really great way for America is that even when they got those 2 goals, which we're definitely going to get into, Chivas had like no response. Like America just seemed to close it down. Leo Cuellar just knew what to tell his team to do after they got to the 2 goals. So I think it was that tenacity to be able to close the game down and get the victory. In a way that we've seen time and time again, they struggle with. They don't seem to close out games really well. You've seen even the smallest of teams, whether it's a Necaxa, a San Luis, kind of be able to concede goals. But this was a good game, especially as we head into the end of the season, for them to get that victory. And like AJ was saying, the bragging rights, it's a Clasico. So now, they get the bragging rights once again.
Definitely huge bragging rights. And I know the ladies definitely did a nice little video in the Estadio Guadalajara where they yelled out and in victory. But I think you touched upon something very important, which we'll get into a little bit, is the way that Cuellar managed this game. And I think, AJ, for once, we're going to have to give the manager props for what he put out on the field and how he managed his team, which we'll get into in just a little bit. But very important that these ladies got this victory, because we mentioned it previously on our preview podcast, is that at the end of the day, America needed to build and get some momentum coming into Liguilla. 2 games remaining in the season. Now only 1 is left. And this is a pretty good launching point. So if we do get a second victory against Pachuca, then, we'll kind of put ourselves in a more favorable position. I'm not talking about in the table, but I'm talking more about team morale and team fitness and all that stuff coming into Liguilla, because we know what Liguilla is basically at the end of the day is who's in better shape, who's in better form, and that usually ends up, pushing you a little bit further than any other team. So we'll get into that in just a little bit, but let's talk more about this game, and let's talk about the opening minutes of this match, because it was quite the nervy start for America, AJ. It looked like Chivas had more than 1 or 2 chances to get themselves an early goal, but, America took their punches and they were able to then get something on the counter. But before we get to the goal that Dani Espinosa eventually gets from the penalty spot, talk to me a little bit more about this nervy start for America.
But before we even get to that, at first that Monse did get an early shot off, which I thought, okay, this is a good start. But then from there, it just seemed like they got themselves a bit too comfortable, want to see what Chivas wanted to do, which Chivas then immediately respond by having players just go right up front, getting into the box and just having a shot. There were some unfortunate moments for Chivas, which I have to say to them. They had an open opportunity in which they could have scored a goal way early on compared to what they did in the 78th minute. But it was just scary. The defense seemed like they looked quite distracted because, this is a back four that we usually don't have. There's no Jimena Rios, there's no Jocelyn Orhead playing. So we have Selena Valera and Marcela Valera playing in this case. So it's been a while for Marcela, it's been a while since she's played as a defender. And then it's Elena Valera, she's playing in a spot that she's not usually accustomed to. But just seeing how they were just letting Chivas just enter the box and just getting shots, it was worrisome just seeing it. But luckily, Masharelli did come in huge with some quality saves at her part. So props to her for coming up big and preventing those goals from happening. But it was just scary just to see that Chivas Femenil was just getting shots early on against America Femenil.
Yeah, and I'll even piggyback off of that, AJ. There was a part, I don't know if it was 10 minutes in or 12 minutes in, where I think Chivas Femenil got a corner kick, and it was an open nobody was there for Chivas Femenil, but it was the defense was so spread out that there was just this perfect open opportunity that if somebody was there, that would have been a goal. And that's something that that America has definitely suffered from the defense. They just they seem to keep an open space. They seem to give open opportunities to opponents. That I tweeted out, if they keep leaving those open chances, Chivas Femenil is eventually going to execute them. But sure enough, they were able to get the PK. And like I said earlier, Chivas wasn't able to respond. But you did think early on, okay, here's where that worry for a Chivas victory is coming in, because of all those early moments where they seem to be grabbing some momentum.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it, because earlier on this season, and from last season, when America played against teams like Toluca and Pumas, in those same moments when a corner or a set piece is given, it seemed like the defense just scattered at times. They're just looking behind their goalies, are they going to get it? And then when they happen to see the ball end up in the back of the net, the goalie's either then going to get frustrated just looking at her defense like, where's the help? That happened last time. JD, in this case with JD, at times she would overextend a bit too much, while Heidi Gonzalez, she would just stay put, but not like telling her defense cover these spots up or anything like that. So no, I get where you're coming from, maybe. Just know that like when I did see those set pieces, I was worried because defense looked just scattered and it looked as if like they weren't like communicating complete. But luckily, no one was there for Chivas to execute it and get a shot on target.
So let's talk just briefly more a little bit about this defense, because you mentioned it, AJ. It was quite the peculiar defense, not something that we've definitely seen a lot throughout this season. Of course, unfortunately, injuries have continued to plague this team, and well, we had to do with what we had. And I don't know about you, AJ, but it seemed like this defense was either going to click or it was just going to be a shambles of a mess, which I'm glad that it wasn't the latter, it was the former. And they definitely came out and proved the point that, hey, we may not be the starters, but we can definitely get the job done. Although there was a bit of, there's a moment in transition where if you're not used to playing with each other, obviously you're going to leave gaps. Sometimes the communication isn't there. But Amy, do you think that the ghost of Nico Castillo that haunted Chivas Femenil definitely weighed in on the morale and the mentality that eventually led to America finding those spaces and finding those opportunities to get them on the counter?
I mean, I was talking about this before we started recording, there was, or even earlier, there was that mental hurdle that Chivas came in. Obviously, they probably got the news way before media gets it or before they're announcing the starting lineups, right? But, to hear that your star, one of your star players that delivers tons of goals is not going to be playing probably hurt them a lot. To hear, Chore Mejia is, has a fever and then sure enough now he tests positive for COVID. That has to be a mental hurdle that goes into, that definitely factors into this. And I would say it's kind of comforting, really, really not, because I think I have this like power to either jinx things or like bring things together. So I'm going to try to say this without trying to insult Chivas in any shape, way, or form. But it's just nice when the curse doesn't feel like it's hitting America anymore. Not that I want anything bad to happen to Chivas Femenil, but it's just nice when, the curse is not ever hitting America, even though it technically still is. But yeah.
It still is, but it's lifting. It definitely is lifting. The limpia is working. We just got to keep going at it, guys. Whatever you guys are doing, keep it up. But yeah, this definitely showed a lot of mental strength from our ladies in that aspect. That, hey, look, the opponent was on top of you, but you got through that wave, and then when you needed to look towards someone, your captain is usually the place you go. And did she deliver? I mean, you just mentioned it, AJ. I mean, thankfully, Danny was playing for us in this game. And boy, does she love playing against Guadalajara. I mean, she just stacks up goal after goal whenever she does end up playing against Chivas. And that match was no different. I mentioned it on the podcast, AJ, if there would be a penalty. And we all came to an agreement that there would be. I just never thought that it was going to come for us. So how did you first of all, I'm gonna ask this to the both of you. Did you feel that it was a penalty? Go, anyone.
You go first, Amy.
Yes, and then yes to the other penalty that should have been a penalty. So I'm leveling out the playing field. If this is a penalty, the other one's a penalty. So yes, I did think it was a PK. For a second, when they showed the replay, I thought that it was outside the box. But as the play finishes up, she's definitely inside the box. So that's a PK for me.
Yeah, no, I felt that was a PK for me too, just because she was the Chivas feminine defender was pulling back Danny's arm. I'm just like, oh, that's gonna be. And then I was thinking like, oh wait, a freak is gonna be given, or like did something happen before? And then when they call it penalty, I was like, penalty. Okay, that's fine. I'll take it. Wonderful. Yes, this is what I need.
Which two things I'll point out. First of all, how quickly everyone got into place. Like, they just showed one review and she was ready to take the penalty. I was like, wow, you guys move fast. Like, no one was arguing with the referee. It was just like, okay, the call is a call, and they were ready to take the penalty. I was like, this is way too fast. And two, though, I don't want to take any merit away from what America was already doing before that penalty. I think you started seeing America trying to hold the ball a little bit more, trying to say, okay, we're taking our punches, but we definitely have to, just find a way to get back into Chivas' own half, and we definitely did. So I think we saw a little bit of nervy moments in Blanca Felix, and I think that America had to take advantage of that, and I think they definitely did. We'll talk about the second goal in just a second, but it paid dividends that America kept looking for an outlet, and sure enough, it came through. Something that I've noticed a lot this season for America is that over the ball, trying to get into the back of the opposing defender and just either get whether it's Cassandra, Marlene, or Dani to utilize their speed and try to beat that defense and try to get that one-on-one with the goalkeeper. And it worked this time. We got the penalty, and like we mentioned, Dani goes up, takes the step, and converts the penalty. Calm, cool, as collected as you like. And I don't think there was in no one's mind that was not going to go in. You just kind of saw, yeah, it's Dani, it's against Chivas, and I'm pretty sure this is going to have to go in. So I don't know. Did you guys feel that America merited the goal at the moment?
I think it was a surprise to see America score first. First of all, I think that was in and of itself surprising, right? We weren't seeing Chivas really have any additional moments after the fact, leading up to that PK where it was like, when is Chivas going to score? I think that was more the question for this Clasico, right? And starting the game, like when is Chivas going to score? And is there going to be a response for when Chivas is able to score? So when you get this PK, obviously PKs are always kind of a surprise, right? Like, oh, now, like you said, as soon as the PK was called, I don't think you ever doubted that Dani was going to miss it. So then it's like, okay, now America is going to have the upper hand. This is at the Akron. This is against Chivas, a second in the league. So you were always kind of wondering that. Look at that. You want to say hi?
Hello.
Okay. Okay. Close the door, please. Can you get some milk in a second? Close the door.
There we go. We got our cameo.
So I don't think we got our cameo. So I don't think you were ever in doubt, but I do think that I think it was just a surprise that America scored first and then had the lead, like right then and there.
Definitely. AJ, when America does end up getting the lead, I think the one thing that crossed many of our minds was, can they hold the lead, right? I think we knew and we talked about how important a early goal would be for America. Granted, it wasn't as early as we expected it to be, but it was still pretty, in a pretty good stage of the first half where America now had control of, okay, how do we go in and about making sure that we control this game and go about and making sure that we can hopefully double our lead or at least keep the advantage that we have up to about the end of the half. How did you feel that America definitely did this right?
Yeah, no, just they knew as soon as they scored that first goal, it wasn't a case where it's like, we can sit back now, relax. No, this is your biggest route. You need to continue scoring against them. You need to build up a comfortable lead to make sure that Chivas had no response, which is exactly what happened. 2 minutes later, Blanca Felix makes a huge goal-kicking mistake, gives the ball right to Diana Espinosa, slots into the back of the net, and then Blanca Felix just looked behind her, just like, I cannot believe I just do it, and just everyone on that team just looked completely lost or just like, what's happening? The penalty, I feel like it's one of those cases, the penalty happened just right there and the penalty kick was just taken. No one was going to argue. It's like, okay, let's play it, see what's going to happen. If they score, they score. Let's see what we can do. They miss, okay, now we can capitalize on that. The penalty score, they're like, okay, let's see what we can do. Then mention it again, 2 minutes later, America family score, and they're like, okay, we're completely lost. And then we see everyone on the America Feminine side, everyone just went to go hug Dani, which is exactly what this team needed, the team morale boost. We even saw it at the Mascherelli just celebrating, putting her hands up. I'm like, yes, this is exactly what we need. Hannah Gutierrez, she had the happiest face in the world just hugging Dani, just everyone subbing, which is exactly what they want. So even Cuellar, we got to see him where he looks usually calm and collected after a second goal, but against a team like Chivas, your biggest rivals, he's like, this is exactly what we need. So I feel like America did a great job in capitalizing and building up the league, which is exactly what they needed to do. And I feel like that's what on everyone's mind it was when America Feminine scored the first goal in this match.
Oh yeah, definitely. Amy, well, coming into this game, we talked about well, at least something that we talked about on the podcast was that we were going to see a great goalkeeper matchup, and I think maybe we jinxed a little bit because we didn't really get to see that, unfortunately. How surprised were you that an experienced goalkeeper like Felix would made the mistake that she made, that Danny obviously ended up capitalizing? But even before that mistake, you saw her spilling a couple of balls here and there, some very routine kind of catches weren't really going her way. How do you explain something like that? Do you think the moment got to her? I mean, she's played these games before.
Yeah, I think it was just, we like we keep saying, like Clásicos hit differently, right? And then maybe it was the Clásico hitting differently in just like unexplainable ways. Maybe it was the news that they had just received that she wasn't properly digesting. I know that Chivas fans were kind of saying like micro infarcts and as an inside joke. But yeah, when I started seeing her before that goal came, that PK was called, or no, sorry, before that second goal that Danny scored happened, you just said it. She was like, there was ball slipping out of her hands, and she wasn't maintaining possession all that much. It's like Alfaro said after the game. As a goalkeeper, you just have those days. I think as a player in general, you just have those days. They're already kind of a mental block. I think we don't know what she was thinking, but that could definitely be a factor. I just lay it out to, it's one of those days. I think Chivas overall is kind of like that last match, right? It just hit them, and it hit them hard, and it's now a learning experience to go from there. But since this is an America Femenil podcast, we have to give credit to Maciarelli for the performance that she gave, because even with Chivas kind of losing their marbles and not really having any type of form, possession, or response, Maciarelli was able to get some really good saves from this game, and she's been able to kind of prove the performances game in and game out, as being taking over like Heidi's position. She's been doing a fantastic job.
Definitely. Although I'm being a little bit nitpicky here, and she should have blocked that goal, and we'll talk a little bit more about it a little bit. She definitely. I'm sorry. She
Ivan, we have the Liga MX scrimmage. We have the Liga MX scrimmage. I need somebody to score a goal like that on you, so that you could be like, I couldn't block that. And I could be like, no, I'm not.
I want that game to be documented, so that if I make that same mistake, I can be duly punished for it.
We're gonna look at Ivan. We're telling him, save that. What are you doing?
Like, America got the W. Like, Chivas took the L. Like, at least give them that golazo. Like, it was good. Like,
it was a good shot, but my thing with that is that it's not too cornered.
Ivan's gonna put on his keeper hat and be like, well, you guys, as a keeper.
Yes, it is. And I promise you that Renata Maciarelli is looking back at that, and she's having the same critiques as I'm having towards her. Because she just looks like she's that type of professional.
I mean, yeah, she's the keeper. Of course, she's gonna look at that and be like, "Dang, like maybe I could have gotten that." But
yeah, but that was tough.
She gets a hand to it.
Hopefully, she has a non-Ivan friend that's like, "Nah, dude, like nobody could say that."
I'm that friend. No, Dom, it's fine. You tried. You got the gold star for effort.
That was a good goal. You gotta give it to Maria Sanchez. She's a quality player, and it's not the first time
it was a good shot.
A goal like that.
Yeah, no, it was a good shot. I just feel like Renata Maciarelli got there, and she just maybe needed to have a little bit of stronger wrist. But I'm not taking anything away from her performance.
Dad, why can't we make you happy?
There's Cordova, and now there's Maciarelli now. Oh, it was worse. It's a goalkeeper. That's gonna be worse now because this man plays goalkeeper too.
Why am I not enough for you, Dad?
No, I'm just saying that's how I looked at it, and I even tweeted it out. But I'm not taking away anything from her.
Everybody who's listening to this pod or listening to this live broadcast, go practice your free kicks if you're part of the Liga MX community. I need somebody to score this goal on Ivan.
I will be ready. I will definitely be ready. But no, yes, it was a good goal. But I said, I have my little nuances on that, on what Maciarelli could have done better. But nothing to take away from that. And it's funny though, because if anyone was to have kind of a slip up or nerves, it probably you would have put your money on Renata, because obviously first Clasico, she hasn't really experienced this kind of pressure before, and now she came up to the moment big, and I really do truly think that speaks highly of her. And whilst I'm a big JD fan myself, I do think that we are seeing America's number one for the foreseeable future, because I just don't see how Renata gets taken down after the phenomenal season she's been having. And to be honest, um, it's just amazing. It truly warms my heart, because I love seeing goalkeepers thrive, especially when you're coming off the bench and you're kind of been in the shadow of one. To be given this chance and taking it really, really says a lot about the person and a lot about the professionalism. But before this turns into the Renata Macerelli show, which I'm more than happy to convert it into, let's finish talking America versus Chivas, because America ends up closing the half very well, very strongly. I think America definitely kept insisting. They definitely kept stepping into Chivas's halves, and I think you mentioned it, Amy, right? I think that meant that mentality that they weren't able to get over that hurdle in the first half really paid dividends for America to keep them kind of pressed into their own box and saying, we're going to have as much as possession. I would see Chivas passes sometimes not really fully connected. America took advantage of that. I'm a little bit disappointed that we didn't walk away with another goal, because I think that definitely would have, one, sealed the game right off the bat, and two, it just would have made it for a much more comfortable second half, and where maybe you could have tried to do things a little bit differently. But ultimately, how did you think America closed the first half?
I think I agree with everything that you just said. I think that they did well. I think they came out of it really confident. And I think, likewise, like we've kind of been saying, or that I keep repeating, I think that, Chivas was also just kind of like, wow, we're losing at home. What are we going to do now? So I think it was a really strong performance in the first half. I think Leo must have talked to them going into the second half and then perfectly executed it against a really fragile Chivas.
Definitely. AJ, what do you think Leo Cuellar's message at the halftime break was for these ladies? What did you think that he talked to them? What did you see out in that second half that you were like, you know what, Leo talked to them perfectly to execute whatever it is that he wanted to do?
Yeah, no. I think what he must have said was, out of all the things that has happened to us, we come here to our rival stadium and we're here to prove that no matter what obstacle you throw at us, we can do anything. You put the heart and effort, you're 110% in. And score goals, you can do anything. Which, it's just amazing. I feel like Cuellar as well is just kind of just telling, let's keep this thing going. We're up 2-0 at the half. Now let's build onto this lead. Don't give any breathing room for Chivas to do anything to us. He just must have given everyone props, because everyone was doing a great job. And he's probably saying to them as well to continue this. Let's not try to make too many mistakes. We can have a mistake here and there, but we need to recover from it immediately, which I feel like that's what we were doing. For his defense, just keep clearing the ball, prevent that Chivas 70 player from even trying to get a shot on us. And midfielders, find your players. You see any open space, give the through ball, give across, and into the forwards. You have an open shot, take that shot. If you think you can do it, go for it. Don't have any second thoughts. You want to take the shot, go for it. Which I feel like that's this team, what they were doing at the second half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Amy, do you think kind of the idea for Leo the second half was, let's invite Chivas to try to do something and let's try to get them on the break? Because I feel like America was definitely just saying, look, Chivas, you can have all the ball you want in the second half. We're just going to stay as close, as tight as possible, and we're just going to try to just get you on the break.
Yeah, I think you're surprised by that. You're not surprised in a bad way. You're just surprised in a good way that you have that 2-0 lead, and then you're like, it's about maintaining it, right? And like AJ's saying, I think not in a bad way, right? But this has been such an inconsistent season that these are not your starting players, right? You're missing some injured players from this side. So I think you add that as an extra boost to these players. Like, look, you're beating one of the top teams in the league, and he has said in many press conferences, like, I'm just trying to teach them to be confident with our inconsistencies, to realize that we can still manage it even if we don't have our top form. So I think you factor that in, and then you tell them, yes, okay, now we've had the lead, let's maintain it. Look at how well you're doing, keep going at it, because I have to give credit to Jana Gutierrez, I think she was one of the standouts for me this game. I think in terms of like that closing up and just getting on the counters, I think that she was one of the people that executed it very well. I think Losada was another player in the back that once they kind of figured out not to be so jumbled up. I mean, again, we keep saying Chivas just couldn't connect the way that they're used to. We're used to seeing in them throughout the season. I think Losada was doing really well at breaking up that in the back. So I think that, yeah, you go into this and you tell these players that once you have everybody in their fit form, aside from Maciarelli, because we're saying, she's definitely going to stay there forever. But for some of these players that maybe will be put back on the bench and be given, not be given as much time, you're telling them, look what you're capable of doing. And now let's just go ahead and close it out, which is something that he said at the post-game press conference too. We did just that. We closed it out. And now my players know that we can do that much more, even in the circumstances that we're in.
No, definitely. I completely agree with you. And I think, AJ, like we mentioned, we got to give Cuellar credit to this, because I know that we've sit here and we've talked maybe, 15 episodes in, and we've always had something to say about Cuellar, whether it's the substitutions, whether it's the formation, whether it's something, even in that amazing win against Mazatlan, we still had something nitpicky to say about Cuellar. Yet in this one, I think we definitely have to give praise to him, because he definitely lined his players up to say, okay, this is how we're going to play. It wasn't pretty. The second half was not pretty at all for America, but it was effective. And I think that's the one thing we take away from this, is that, okay, Cuellar knew that sometimes in order to walk away with the victory here, you have to play a little bit ugly. You have to play a little bit scrappy. Sometimes you got to get physical and you got to get in their face. And that's exactly what America Femenil did. I mean, you just saw players, and I know Amy just mentioned Hannah, and that's someone who I mentioned last episode. I need her to step up. I need her to have a big game. She did that. I mean, I was super pleased, super well. She played the whole 90 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, she played the full 90 minutes in that match.
Played the full 90 minutes, and she looked very well throughout the whole 90. Well-rounded game. And it was just overall a really, really satisfying second half in the tactical perspective, right? If you're looking at it just as a fan, it was a little bit just like, why are we giving them the ball so much? And why are they doing a lot of, why are they taking a lot of chances against us? But we rode the wave, and props to Cuellar. I mean, AJ, I don't even think it was like, maybe this close to the 80th minute, we still yet to make a substitution. But I was fine with that, because I felt like if you made one, then you disrupted the kind of harmony that was on that pitch. And it showed true testament to these ladies' athleticism to be able to endure just that much high intensity, that much high pressure, and to be able to withstand all of it and be like 80, 85 minutes in and be like, you know what, we could still go for another 20 minutes if I needed to.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Even with the substitutions that Cuellar did make, they were good substitutions. Like, Marlene Campa coming up for Diana Casas, which on a really good day when she's not injured, she is deadly. Then you had Montse Hernandez out coming for Jocelyn Orejel. So you had a 6-foot defender that Chivas had to worry about. So if you're trying to cross, it's like you're not going to do anything. You have to just have a through ball or a low ground ball if you're going to do something. And then towards the end, we just get defensive while we take Daniela Espinosa out for Zuma Hernandez. So we were just adding more defense to the point where Chivas couldn't do anything. And I felt like all these players, really, they were doing good. Yes, in the second half, Chivas were getting more of opportunities, but the defense, like Selena Valera, Ana Gabi, Marcela Valera, Monica Rodriguez, they were just on point. I think there was a point where Marcela pretty much cleared the ball away from a Chivas friend, just shook her head at it. It's like, no, don't try that at me. It's just, that's what you like to see. Just this defense was just not allowing anything. And you have to keep in mind, the only time Chivas scored, that was on a set piece. That was not any point in play where you're having players run and then just either do a cross or a through ball to any of their players. It's just really props to them for all these players. And as you mentioned as well, I mean, Amy, just Ana Gutierrez, like, I had doubts, but maybe I feel like in this position where she wasn't playing as a winger, where you're not required to cross the ball, go on one-on-ones, or cut in. You're a part of that midfield where you're setting up passes. Have a corner here and there, but for the most part, I feel like Ana Gutierrez was really comfortable. And just to see her play a full 90 minutes, which I think I haven't seen in a while from her this season, if not, I think all season. That goes to show, and she's probably then saying to her critics, like, I'm here to play the full 90. I can do what you asked me to do from Cuellar, whoever it is. I can prove it onto the pitch and give 100 my 110% and do the best I can to help my team get the victory.
Definitely. Amy, anything to add?
Was that a PK? I know we won. We might have
No.
leveled it. Oh, that's a real confident no. It's a real confident no.
I don't.
You think
I
if
don't
there was
think it would.
VAR, it would have been a PK?
I think they would have been checked, but I don't think it would have been a PK.
No.
On
maybe?
the last one on the last
the Mario Sanchez play, yeah.
Ooh, like I looked at that video. I thought at first it seemed like the player was throwing herself over just because Gas was in the way, but then at the same time I looked at like Gas's like foot like right behind and she did the shove. I was like, I might have to admit that should be a penalty, and if VAR was a thing, that was gonna be a penalty, but because it's not in there. But in all honesty, I feel like that was a penalty. Just we got away with it.
I know people kept like focusing on the foot. I don't think the foot aspect of it is a PK. I think that it's kind of like it's the arm movement. It feels like there's like a slight tug that could have been misconstrued as a PK. I think it would I wouldn't have been upset with the review of a hypothetical VAR checking it and then deciding either way. But I think that this is one of those plays that needs VAR, but we don't have it, so there's no point in talking about it.
Yeah, and I mean, how many countless calls have would have been VAR in this season, right? If we would have had it. So, I mean, we'll see. Hopefully, one day it gets implemented, but I know that is a discussion for another day, because it is quite the long discussion. But yeah, for me, I mean, I don't know. It definitely gets checked if there is VAR, but I feel like it's a little soft to call. But that's on me. Everyone can defer to their own opinion, but yeah, granted, at the end of the day, America walks away with all 3 points, and I mean, obviously, we I did want to say this though. Were you guys surprised that it was as physical as it got? I mean, it got heated, very heated at one point.
I want to talk about that. Yeah, no, I expected that. Like when Selena Valera got, I think, into the argument with one of the Chivas players and Norma Palafox, I'm like, oh, it's on. Like, even Selena and Norma, like, they weren't backing off. They were like, if you're going to tussle, we're going to tussle right now. To the point that everyone on both teams just got right in. And the ref is like, okay, we need to stop. And I felt like from there, they were trading fouls left and right. I was like, this is what I love to see. This is what a Clasico is. Thankfully, no fights actually happened. Nothing physical happened. But just like, I expected this completely. It's a Clasico. It's a game for bragging rights, 3 points. So at this, seeing everything that's happened, yeah, no, I wasn't surprised that it got physical in this match.
And I'm sure you guys noticed it, but I think in terms of one of the bigger, I guess, like overarching themes leading into this weekend was like, is the Clásico Nacional as significant as the Clásico Regio Femenil? Take that for whatever you will, right? I know at the beginning people were saying, this quality for this América Chivas game is like miles away from Tigres Rayadas, what we saw, on Saturday and stuff. And then to see that scuffle and people being like, oh yeah, here's the Clásico. I think that helped with kind of alleviating that argument. I won't say my opinion about it, but it did add to that whole, like, if you guys are missing a Clásico feeling or you feel like there's no Clásico aspect to it, like here's what you got. Of course, like AJ says, glad that it didn't escalate to something more, but it showed like that intensity that we felt was going to be in this game, especially with America up. I think that was definitely a factor into why they got even more into each other's faces.
Definitely. Long are the days where America and Chivas would get into fights in the 1980s. But it was good to see the intensity. It was good to see the physicality. I feel like that was one of Cuellar's messages to the ladies. Be like, do not be afraid to get physical. Do not be afraid to go on those 50-50s with everything you got. I will say this. If I'm going up against Marlene Campa, I do not want her to be on the opposition side. My goodness. She looks like she can definitely do some damage. So I'm just like, I'm so glad you're on my team, and I'm glad that you are doing what you're doing great. But she is, she definitely would scare me if I'm playing against her. But it was overall a really, really good game. I just want one last quick take from you guys before we jump on into the Pachuca game, because I know we have to preview that game. But besides the obvious Dani Espinosa and Renata Masciarelli, who is your standout player from this game, AJ?
Standout player?
And you can't say Hannah because we said Hannah already.
Can I say Macharelli then?
No, I just said you can't use Danny, you can't use Mascarelli, and you can't use Hannah.
Monica Rodriguez, just throughout that entire game, like I mentioned last on the podcast, despite her being a right back, she would just go right up. It's like Jocelyn as well. When you see her as a center back, you just see her in midfield, even at some point, just going at the forward spot, just want to take a shot. But no, with Monica Rodriguez, she's just out there, just having like the time of her life. She was giving passes to everyone across. There was even a point that she could have actually scored, which I almost screamed and then jumped right out of my seat. But then when she did the short pass, I'm like so close, but yet so far. But no, Monica Rodriguez, she proves from time to time again to why she is one of the elite players in this league, one of the best right back. If not, maybe this is just me, like I'm mega fan. She may be the best right back in the league, and I'd say she's one of the faces of the Liga MX Femenil.
Okay, interesting. She did have a really good game, though. I'm not gonna lie. Amy, your standout player.
I'm gonna go with Selena Valera because she didn't back down. And you're not letting me pick anybody else, so I'm going with Valera.
Oh, come on. Everyone else had a pretty good game. I mean, I definitely liked Monse. My goodness, that nutmeg.
You can't pick Monse either. You know, if you're gonna give us rules, I'm giving you rules, so you can't pick Monse. Monse's like
okay,
of course,
okay.
Have a great game.
I will, and then I will take my Marcela Valera. Oh my goodness. Her defending is very her defending seems very old school. It's very physical. Like even when she when you're running at her, it feel like she pierces your soul when she just looks at you. She's like, "Come at me! Like I'm gonna go toe to toe with you. You will either get through me, cleanly or with a foul. But either way, I'm taking that ball away from you." So it was nice to see someone with such physicality in the back line, which is something that Jocelyn does bring, but of course she wasn't in this game. So the fact that Valera came in and did that role very well, really, really speaks highly of her. But those are our takeaway players from that. Obviously, we've mentioned the other players that had a really, really good game. And America gets the 3 points, bragging rights, and hopefully looking into something very good for the Liga in the upcoming Guardianes 2020. But before we jump on into our next segment, just want to read this out. The true Clasico is the friends we've made along the way. Come on, Ivan. Even we like Renata, man. All right. Melissa is right. Shout out to Melissa. She is.
I'm trying to be as nice as possible during this Clasico recap, Mel. Don't get mad at me.
She's been pulling her punches. She definitely has. But yeah, one side note thing, I feel like it's always said, and I don't know if it's true, but it probably is, but some of the best goalkeepers to ever play have come from Guadalajara. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Because time after time, some of the great goalkeepers that have, played in this league have been from Guadalajara, whether it's women or men. So we'll take that with what you want. But let's move on into our next segment, which is the preview, America versus Pachuca. It is the last game of the season for our ladies. It is the end of the Guardianes 2020 regular season before we jump into the Liga. Before we go ahead, AJ, any update, any news in and around Coapa that we should know ahead of this game?
So as we mentioned before, Justin Orhead, she did came back early. She got to play in this match against Chios, in which she came in the 83rd minute, if I'm not mistaken. So that's good things to see. Jennifer Munoz, she was on the bench, but despite her not playing, good to see that was there. Veronica Perez, she did put on Twitter that she was happy for the win. She's happy to see everyone tomorrow, which tomorrow is today. So it means she's pretty much coming back. And I assume Jimena Rios would come back too, because she would be silent for 4 weeks. The same time that Veronica Perez will be out, so I'd assume she'd come back as well. And shout out to Ana Gabi for making her 100th appearance with America Femenil. So really proud for her. A day one player since playing in the 2017 Copa MX Femenil, playing every single game, and just really happy just to see her make her 100th appearance. The other which is really sad. So America Femenil defender Elisa Santos, she had her bike stolen earlier this week, in which she then went to Instagram to express how she really felt, and she was just completely heartbroken to how someone would just steal a bike, considering it's her only way of transportation to get to training every day. But there's a happy end to this story. Corona Football, the Twitter account, did happen to reach out to Lisa Santos and tell that we will arrange something for you, which I'd assume at the end of the day, I think she might be getting her bicycle back, if not a very new bicycle. So just really happy to see that for Elisa Santos.
Definitely. Well, that's a really nice ending to this. So hopefully they get her like a nice new shiny bicycle with like a nice little Corona tag on it. Something, But no, yeah, definitely. Great update news. Thank you, AJ. And one last comment here. Chivas. Melissa has said, "It's okay, Amy. I won't burn the stuff I haven't mailed you just yet." Shout out to Melissa for all the great work that she has been doing on her side. So we were ready to talk America Pachuca. So this is definitely going to be the last game of the regular season for America. And we talked upon it in just a little bit before we started recording. And it seems that we're kind of all in the same boat in regards as to what America should do for this game. And it's not risk any of your injured players whatsoever. Go out with the same starting 11 that you just did, which pays a little bit of dividends to the fact that you just came off a really big, huge win against Chivas. And now if you give them you give out the same lineup and you give them this game, then it just pays more kind of, I guess, respect to what they were able to do and say, you know what, you did such a good job. You're going to keep your starting spot, So we'll see what happens. But AJ, talk to me about this possible starting 11 that we may see against Pachuca. And do you think that this is the right move for Cuellar to make, not to risk any of our big names?
Yeah, no, for the lineup, I'm actually going to have it the same way as before, but in case anyone did not know who starts, so at goalkeeper, we're going to have Renata Machero starting. Our back four to be consistent of Selena Valera at the left back position. Two centers going to be Marcela Valera and Agabi. Our right back is going to be Monica Rodriguez. Our midfield is going to be consistent of two CMs. Those are Eva Gonzalez and Cas Cuevas. On left mid, you're going to have Montserrat Hernandez. On right mid, you're going to have Ana Gutierrez. And your two forwards up front are going to be Daniela Espinosa and Marlene Campa. And to say that if Cuellar's making the right move, I think he is. This lineup worked well against Chivas, and I feel the line should hopefully work the same way against Pachuca Family because we're having some of our big names come back for the Liguilla, but I wouldn't want to risk it into this game because if we look into the standings, America are in 5th place and they can't really move any further or below from where they're currently at. So at this point, it's just stick with the same starting 11, see what they can do because at this point, we're trying to build momentum and confidence because as you mentioned before in previous podcasts, Ivan, in the Liguilla, it's all about confidence. Whichever team is going into this match prepared by having a lot of confidence and good morale, they're going to be the team coming out with the victory at the end of the day, which I feel like with this lineup, it's a perfect way to start it.
Definitely. Amy, momentum we know is important and crucial for the Liguilla, and giving these ladies a good run up after that great result against Chivas is definitely probably the right thing for Cuellar to do. But do you think that maybe not giving some of the game time to maybe your more starters like Jen Munoz, like Jocelyn Oregel, is going to maybe deprive them a little bit in the Liguilla?
I don't think so. I think it's like we were talking about before we started recording. This game I think this game is for glory rather than anything else. They're 4 points behind Atlas, so they're not going to go anywhere. They're not going to get higher. They're 7 points ahead of Pumas, so Pumas is not going to get anywhere. So they're stuck in 5th place. Like Leo said at the end of the game, we want to be a 5th place team that nobody wants to play against. And I think if you allow the players that started against Chivas to build on that momentum and gain that much confidence, you're kind of creating depth in confidence. Maybe not technically because you are missing that. I think you were saying that, Ivan, right? You're losing that rhythm. You don't have that rhythm without your key start players. But if you add more depth to that confidence, you yourself are going to feel more secure about the fact that, let's say, fingers crossed, nothing happens to your starters when you finally go into the gear and you're executing them. You'll feel confident getting somebody off the bench. So I think you start these players as they are. Maybe give Dani more confidence and secure a goal against Pachuca. Maybe give some of those midfielder or second string defenders more chances to show that, hey, this Pachuca, you guys can handle them. and make them feel more confident, or have them kind of rectify some of their mistakes that they made against Chivas. Because while they did come out of that win, one of my biggest, like, I guess, nitpicky things, if you will, was, can they hold off against stronger teams, which you haven't really seen that much. They've already faced Rayadas, Tigres, so they have had that difficulty. So you're gonna have to make sure that these players are able to do that, and then you just give your starting players more recovery time. So I think that that's the key focus. I think you want to have as collectively as possible, which is something that America has struggled to do with consistency. You kind of want to just build some consistency off of this really irregular season, and then go into the Liga that much stronger.
Definitely. I think we can all agree on that. AJ, we know that Pachuca is no pushover whatsoever, and you talked to me about this just days before even playing Chivas, saying that this game was going to be a true testament of these ladies, because we knew what Pachuca were capable of, and we know that America tends to struggle a little bit with them. So how do you think Cuellar is going to plant his team tactically to make sure you walk out and walk away with all 3 points? Because you can't really plant yourself the same way that you did against Chivas to go up and go play against Pachuca. It wouldn't work.
Yeah, no, just looking at the result that Pachuca had last time against Atlas, in which they lost 3-1, this is due to, COVID-related issues or injuries. But in this case, Cuellar should be taking advantage of this, that Pachuca are coming into this match with a loss. But in this case, there are no pushover, because our previous encounters with Pachuca, we currently have 5 wins against them, 2 draws and 4 losses, which equates to 63 win rate. It's decent, but it's not the greatest, because back then throughout the seasons, Pachuca's a team that always gave America Femenil a hard time. We could be leading, and then we end up losing at the end, or it's just a complete stalemate until someone makes an error and then scores a goal. So by this case, Cuellar has played against this team multiple times. It's the same manager that they have throughout the entire time. She's been there pretty much with the team since day one in Eva Espejo. So she knows what Cuellar is going to do, and Cuellar knows what Eva Espejo is going to do. So I think in this case, America Femenil had to walk into this game with the mindset that we need to take advantage of Pachuca Femenil from the get-go. If I'm not mistaken, they don't have their starting goalkeeper. Not mistaken if it's due to COVID or to an injury, if I'm not mistaken. So with hearing that in mind, that's something Cuellar is going to need to take advantage of. So to tell this team, playing a 4-4-2, which they did against Chivas, I think in this case is get the early goals. If we need to feed the ball to Daniela Espinosa the entire time, then so be it. Give her every single opportunity we get. And if Marlene Campa is going to be there as well, you find Marlene open, pass the ball to her. Because I feel like in this game, this is a game where the forwards are going to have to come up big. Daniela Espinosa, to my knowledge, has never scored against Pachuca in her time. It's always been either Lucero Cuevas or any of her teams. So this is a time for Daniela Espinosa to come into this game with guns blazing and just bag herself a goal. And I feel like if we can get the early goal, as we always mention, Ivan, in the podcast, the floodgates are going to open for America Femenil, and they can just start scoring goals left and right. And I feel like with this lineup too, we're definitely capable of getting more than one goal against this match against Pachuca. But that doesn't mean that there's no pushover. If at any point we have the same defense like we did against Chivas Femenil, we're going to get punished for it.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. Amy?
Especially when you think about Pachuca is so, and you're going to talk about depth, that Pachuca just has one of the best midfield compilations in the league. They've struggled, obviously they're in 8th place, so America has that upper hand on them. But yeah, like AJ is saying, they're not a pushover. This is a team that, I mean, they haven't had the greatest trajectory since the league has continued to progress, but they were at one point finalists. They were the very first finalists against Chivas. So they have that legacy with them. They obviously have a really good structure, so to speak. I think, though, the COVID impact will still kind of mess with them, because I don't think those players are going to be back in time to play this match. So, yeah. So I think it'll just be about, like you're saying, gaining the early advantage, getting that dominance as soon as possible, so that you can kind of, again, sit back and defend your lead.
Hello, my friend. No, well, Amy puts it very well right there, that, obviously with all this COVID stuff going on, this is a perfect game for these ladies to go out there and completely, take the game to Pachuca, walk away with a very good, healthy, comfortable lead, and then we'll see what happens from there. But I think we've pretty much touched upon all of that. So before we wrap it all up here, let me hear you guys' predictions for the game on Friday. So, AJ, I will throw it to you first. Prediction, my friend. Are you going to be as adventurous with your results today?
Kind of. I'm going with a 3-1 victory for America. Yes, the opposition gets to score a goal, so it's not completely adventurous, but still kind of is. But yeah, no, I got this victory for America. I'm feeling confident with the win they had against Aguilas. I'm confident they could get this win against Pachuca with the 3-1 victory.
All right, well, let's take it over to Amy and Ollie. What is your guys' scoreline prediction for Friday's match?
He's messing with my mic now. I am going to go with a 2-0 victory again. I think we give Dani maybe not a brace, but she gets another goal and then just one more goal to be comfortable. They might struggle a little bit with that midfield, but I think they'll still get those 2 goals at some point.
Definitely. Alrighty then. Well, I am gonna go with a solid 3-0 victory. AJ, how you like that? I'm being adventurous.
I like that. I like that. I like you being adventurous. That's good. Take risks. See what can happen.
I'm gonna need AJ as my life coach from now on. Alrighty then. Well, that pretty much wraps it up all here. That game is gonna be live on Friday. AJ, do we have a specific place where they can catch this game?
I know in Mexico they give it on Fox Deportes, which is usually where Pachuca play. Where they
We're
have
at
their
home.
Game. Yes,
we're at home.
Oh, I know, but I'm saying like over there where they air those games at. But I would like to considering it's at 1 p.m. Eastern time, I would like to say it would be on through the NAUSA. So there's that. And if I'm not mistaken as well, they are gonna have the game on Facebook Live too. And yes, I am correct. It will be on Facebook Live. So if through the NAUSA do not happen to air it on TV, you can catch the game right on Facebook.
All right, well, everyone to the face if you guys cannot watch that over here in the States. So that game is going to be live, like I mentioned, on Friday. That is going to be an early game here in the West Coast, as it is going to be a 10 a.m. kickoff time. I'm not even at lunch yet. What am I supposed to do to try to watch this game? But that is, again, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 12 p.m. Central, and of course, like AJ just mentioned, 1 Eastern for all of our friends. And that is going to be a home game. Cancha Centenario. Ladies going to be closing out the regular season for America in the Guardianes 2020 season. All right, with that said, I think we've covered everything. Amy, one last word before we kind of wave goodbye.
My kid messed up my mic, so I apologize. But always a fun time to be on this pod. Like I tell you guys, just the fact that you guys are including the Liga MX Femenil in your coverage. I know you guys do amazing stuff with the men's side, but they're doing a great work. And if you come here to absorb Liga MX Femenil content, you're part of the progress. So thank you guys as always.
No, yeah, definitely. Thank you, Amy, for all the work that you've been putting in. I know that you have been quite in the works with being everywhere, putting Liga MX English and Liga MX Feminine English in a good name. So we want to thank you for all that work that you've been doing. If you guys haven't done so already, make sure you guys go check her out. Amy, where can they find you on Twitter?
I'm at Azteca Amelia with 3 A's at the end. It'll be fast to find me. You'll see all these names somewhere ruining my profile in some capacity. But just keep it. And if you guys want to listen to a more general based Liga MX Feminine, we do have the Our Football podcast where we kind of go into every team. So go over there if you would like sometimes.
Definitely, yes. Go check them out if you guys want to expand your horizons more when it comes to Liga MX Feminine. That is the perfect podcast to start off. They cover just the whole league in general, and it's a great place to go and get more knowledge base. I know that AJ listens to it all the time. All righty then. Well, with that said, we're gonna wave goodbye to every single one of you guys. We'll catch you on Friday. AJ is gonna be covering the match, so make sure you guys follow us over on Twitter at Eagle Eye Podcast. And thank you again to our sponsors, Foot Called, for making this a possibility. If you guys haven't done so already, make sure you check them out. Use discount code EEP at checkout to get 10% off. With that said, we're gonna leave you guys. We'll be back next week to talk all things America Femenil. Until then, please take care, wear your masks, and as always, Arriba America. Good night, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was another production of the Eagle Eye Podcast, the #1 source for all things Club America in English. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Eagle Eye Podcast and get all the latest news and coverage. And subscribe to our podcast wherever it is you may listen.